Now, for nearly 20 years, the main UK parties agreed on one thing, that we should switch from fossil fuels to greener forms of energy and aim for net zero carbon emissions by 2050. No more polluting gases entering the atmosphere than we can remove. When Labour came into power, they went even further. They turned the whole electricity grid green by 2030 and promised all of our energy bills would come down. But now the political consensus is shattering with the Conservatives, saying that the 2050 target, which they set in motion, is impossible to reach. So let's hear first from Ed Miliband, the Energy and Net Zero Secretary. Welcome to the programme.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're going to come to your brief in a moment. I want to ask about Prince Andrew first of all. He's been forced to announce he's relinquished some of his titles. Is that enough?
Well, look, these are deeply concerning allegations that we are seeing in the papers, and I think all of our thoughts will be with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. I think the right thing as a government minister to say this is a matter for the royal family. I think it's the right thing that... I think so. It's right that Prince Andrew has relinquished his titles. I think the royal family will have to make its own decisions about sort of what, if anything, what other steps might be taken. But I think it is a matter for them.
Officially, though, he will still retain the dukedom. It could be removed by an Act of Parliament. Would you support legislation to do that?
We're going to be guided by the royal family and His Majesty the King
on this. But on a personal level, would you support legislation to remove his dukedom?
I think it's right that he's relinquishing the titles. And I think that's
you're evading my question.
No, I'm not evading my question.
Would you support any legislation, then?
I think we'll be guided by the royal family on this as to whether... I think the royal family have said that they didn't want to take up parliamentary time with this. There are lots of other things that Parliament is discussing. I think it's right he's given up his titles.
Lord Mandelson was sacked by Keir Starmer as ambassador to Washington because of his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Would you support legislation to strip him of his peerage?
Peter Mandelson's is taking a leave of absence from the House of Lords, and I think that's the right thing to do. And I think it was right that Keir Starmer took action when those emails and communications were received. I think these disciplinary matters will be taken care of by the whips.
OK. There are more allegations today. The Mail on Sunday is reporting that Prince Andrew asked his Met Police bodyguard to dig up information on Virginia Giuffre. Do you think there should be an investigation into whether they followed his orders?
Well, these are deeply concerning allegations. I think people will want to look at those allegations and what the substance is behind them. But obviously, if that is correct, that is absolutely not the way that close protection officers should be used. So I was really, really concerned to hear about those allegations. Obviously, I think that these are very, very concerning allegations.
Prince Andrew says he vigorously denies the allegations against him by Virginia Giuffre. Do you believe her or do you believe him?
Look, I think my starting point is always with the victims. And I think for the family of Virginia Giuffre, and obviously for her when she was alive, I think this has been a horrendous, and is still a horrendous time for her family. Seeing all of this, having it all sort of continuing to be a subject of public debate. So I think what we've learnt over the years, Victoria, is that in these matters we have to start with a focus on the victims, and taking the victims seriously, because for so long victims of these kind of allegations weren't taken seriously.
You are here to talk about a plan. You've got to create jobs in the clean energy sector. I'm going to specifically ask about those jobs in a moment or two. Can we talk about bills first? Because they are such a source of stress, energy bills, for so many households. Have a look at this research from More in Common. Most people think your main job as Energy Secretary should be getting bills down. It's the #1 priority for people when they're questioned. OK, well, before the election, you promised energy bills would fall by 300 quid by 2030. Everyone's bills are going up. Are you standing by that promise?
Bills are too high, and we stand by our promise to get bills down by up to £300 by 2030. And look, the reason why bills are so high, Victoria, and this is really, really important, is because of our dependence on fossil fuels. You know, the gas price is still 75% higher than it was before Russia invaded Ukraine. And there is only one route to get bills down, which is to go for clean power, homegrown, clean energy that we control, so we're not at the behest of the petrostates and the dictators. That was the plan we fashioned in opposition. That is the plan I'm working on, and I know my responsibilities.
Right, OK, because when you promised people bills would come down by 2030, you didn't tell people, but they're going to go up first, did you? So you can see why people might be sceptical about it.
Well, look, we don't control the gas price, and that's the problem. You see,
you don't. That is very true. That is very true.
And you see, we are subject to these international markets, and you know, so many people are still suffering now. But also from what happened when Russia invaded Ukraine, and bills went absolutely through the roof.
And they have come. The wholesale prices have come down a lot since the peak in 2022.
But still higher.
Can you have a look at this standard electricity bill? And this shows our audience how their bill is made up. And we can see the wholesale costs are there. That's the big green bit. But you, the government, are in control of the two blue triangles, the policy cost, the turquoise colour, and VAT, obviously, the navy colour. And the policy costs include the green levies that you add to bills and the social schemes that you add to bills. Together, they make up about 20%. So you have control over those bits. So it is your choice to keep bills as high as they are. That is correct, isn't it?
No, I don't think that is correct.
Why not? Because you're in control of those two blue bits.
I think maybe the point you're making, which is a fair point, is we've always got to look at the balance between public expenditure and levies. Because, look, we've got to build this network somehow. We've got an ageing electricity infrastructure. Whether you go for fossil fuels or green energy, you've got to build this infrastructure because we've got growing electricity demand, AI, all of those things. Now, so we've got to build that infrastructure. Now, we are always, as a government, looking at what's the right balance between public expenditure and levies. For example, I'll give you an example. Sizewell C, big nuclear power station, creating lots of jobs. We're funding it, we're helping get the cost down through public expenditure by investing in it.
Right.
So we're always looking at that balance.
OK. But you've made a choice then, haven't you, to keep that on bills, to fund it through people's bills.
Yeah, and we face very difficult fiscal circumstances. But if what you're saying to me, Victoria, is it's our job to get bills down, we have a plan to do that. And in the meantime, we're helping people. Let me give you an example. This winter, 3 million additional families will get the Warm Homes discount, £150 off their bills. In the old world, there were families who were really in terrible fuel poverty who weren't getting help. We've extended the help to them. So it's not just saying wait for 2030. I know that my job is to do everything we can to get bills down in the meantime.
Right, OK. But do you think it will be another 5 years before we see the fruits of your...
Well, look, every solar panel we put up, every wind turbine we build, helps to get us off fossil fuels and onto clean energy.
But is it going to be 5 years? Is that what you said?
I'm going to try and do it as soon as possible. I know my responsibilities.
OK. And is the government considering scrapping 5% VAT on energy bills at the budget?
I mean, I'm sort of old enough and wise enough to know I shouldn't speculate on the Chancellor's budget.
Right. But you're saying that with a smile on your face. So do viewers take anything from that or not?
I'm saying it because the whole of the government, including the Chancellor, understands that we face an affordability crisis in this country. We face a cost of living crisis, a long-standing cost of living crisis that we need to address as a government.
Okay.
We also face difficult fiscal circumstances. Let me just make this point. And so, obviously, we're looking at all of these issues.
Right. I just want to make one more point about the cost of people's energy bills, because the major suppliers, EDF, E.ON, Centrica, Octopus, they are clear that the green levies that you put on people's bills are partly to blame for rising energy bills. And one energy boss said this week that would be part of adding 300 quid to a typical bill over the next 5 years, which is the exact opposite of what you promised.
I don't think that's quite what they're saying. Look, it goes back to my point.
I'll quote you, Rachel Fletcher, if I may. She's
the boss of course, I've seen what she said.
If we continue on the path we're on right now, in all likelihood, electricity prices for a typical customer are going to be 20% higher in 4 or 5 years' time than they are now, and that's even if wholesale prices halve. So we support the decarbonisation of electricity, but the non-commodity costs, the costs we've just been talking about, are adding about £300 worth of pressure onto a typical bill.
This is sort of characteristically nerdy, but very, very important. What Rachel Fletcher said there was wholesale costs, even if they halve. Here's a really important point. The reason why going to clean energy is the way to get bills down for good is it's so much cheaper to run the run. Let me just make this point: the wholesale costs. But But Rachel Fletcher is right. There's a cost to building that network. Now, my job is to make sure the fruits of those lower wholesale costs that she's talking about get through to the customers, and we bear down on the costs of building that network. And I've said to you very clearly in this interview, Victoria, that I know my job, which is to get bills down by 2030.
OK. Does it have to come off our energy bills? Could it not come from other elements of taxation?
Well, that's always a judgment for the Chancellor. But let's be honest, we know we've got really difficult fiscal circumstances that we inherited.
Okay.
And so, but absolutely, we look at those things.
Right. Do you think she's looking at that between now and the budget?
She looks at all of these issues. And look, you know, Rachel Reeves has invested big time in clean energy. We'll perhaps come on to that about our jobs plan.
Yeah.
Big time in clean energy, the biggest investment in clean energy in our history.
Now, you just approved the construction of a massive solar farm in Lincolnshire, the Tilbridge Solar Project. It will cover 3,000 acres. Some in the communities around that area are unhappy.
Understood.
Because it will change their community
Understood.
for good. OK, you say you understand that. How fair is it to them then?
Well, let's go back to the previous bit of this conversation. I mean, how are we going to get bills down? How are we going to get off these fossil fuels, this roller coaster of fossil fuel prices, which has done such damage, without building?
So
we are going to
tough.
have to build. Well, I don't. That sounds a bit callous. It's not tough. Communities have to have their say. But solar is the cheapest. It's the cheapest form of technology we have, the cheapest power source at our disposal. So I'm not going to go around saying we're going to have some blanket ban on the thing that can actually get bills down for people. Look, this is the trade-offs of government. But I think the right thing to do is to build this clean energy for the future. It's the right thing for bills and the right thing for jobs too.
Let's talk about the jobs then. You've got a plan to create, you say, 400,000 new jobs in green energy, doubling the 440,000 you say already work in the sector. Wind farms and solar farms, having read into this, are not that labour intensive. Only about 55,000 work in the wind sector, for example. How on earth do you get to 400,000 green jobs?
Well, it's all set out in our plan, but let me just give you some...
Where's it come from?
Sizewell C, we just talked about it earlier, 10,000 extra jobs, 10,000 construction jobs from building Sizewell C, thousands of jobs from constructing all of these offshore wind turbines. Look, massive construction opportunities, but we don't just want construction jobs. They're important. We also want to make sure that we build our supply chains in Britain. We've got a new cable factory opening in Scotland. We've got the Siemens wind turbine factory in Hull, which is booming. And the reason this plan's so important, Victoria, is it answers a question that so many of your viewers will have, which is, where are the good jobs of today? What job is my son or daughter going to do in the future? And this is the answer. You know, 400,000 jobs across our country. Not a target. This is our prediction of what we need, what we're going to need to meet our clean energy plans. And it goes to what I think the purpose of our government is, which is to change our economy so it doesn't just work for the richest in our society, but it works for everyone again.
Right. How did you get to 400,000, though?
It's granular, piece by piece, looking at 31 different occupations. And it's jobs for plumbers, for construction workers, for welders.
Right. They're green jobs. They're counted as green jobs.
Well, absolutely, if it's building the green infrastructure, the clean energy infrastructure of the future. And look, it's not just about the jobs, the big numbers. It's also about saying to young people, because I've got a plan for 5 new clean energy technical excellence colleges so that young people, 20,000 of whom will be trained at these technical excellence colleges, so that they can see the jobs of the future. And I know, I was at Sheffield Forge Masters on Thursday talking to some of the apprentices there. This is what they want to be doing. They want to build the future for our country, and this is the opportunity for them to do so.
OK. Is Rosebank oil field off the northwest of Scotland part of the future for our country? You've got to make a decision on whether to allow drilling to go ahead there. Are you going to approve it?
It's a planning decision, so it's a quasi-judicial decision, so I'm not going to comment on that. What I will say... Because it's a quasi-judicial decision, and I don't come on. There's got to be a proper process that we follow.
No, but the decision is yours in the end, isn't it?
Yes, and I have to go through the proper process. An application is put in, it's looked at on its merits, and that's what's going to happen. But I will.
Okay. But if I may come on to the point, just because we are coming up to time. It was a manifesto.
It's gone so quickly.
Sorry?
It's gone so quickly.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, as you know. It was a manifesto commitment not to grant new oil licences. And 2 years ago, you called Rosebank climate vandalism. How could you ever possibly approve it?
Rosebank's going to go through its proper process, but let me go to your point about the manifesto commitment. We made 2 manifesto commitments. We're going to abide by them: to keep existing oil and gas fields open for their lifetime and not to issue new licences to to explore new fields.
Right.
To get slightly
That's how you get around it.
No, it's not about getting around it. To be technical again, the Rosebank is a consent. It's not about a license. So those will be looked at in the proper way. But the bigger picture here is we want a just transition in the North Sea. So we've got to protect those workers, as well as creating new jobs for those workers in hydrogen, carbon capture and elsewhere. And we've got to have an environmentally leading position. And we're going to do both of those things. And
the Prime Minister's going to COP next month? Yes?
He'll be making clear his decision about whether he's able to go. Obviously, I'm keen he goes, but the Prime Minister faces such pressures on his diary. But he really cares about this issue. He sees it...
Sounds like he may not be going. He doesn't care that much.
He sees it as about, not just about protecting the future for young people, important though that is, but as absolutely central to our economic policy, our energy security policy. I think there's been no Prime Minister with the kind of commitment that Keir Starmer has on this.
OK, but you can't confirm he'll be going on one of the most important missions that he set out.
The Prime Minister's diary is above my pay grade, but I'm sure they'll be making his decision clear soon.
Thank you very much, Ed Miliband. Thank you for talking to our audience this morning.
Great.
Thank you.